Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hello Word, the podcast that helps you expand your English vocabulary one word at a time. I'm your host, Alex, and today's word is conservative. What does it mean? How do we use it? Let's dive in. Today, we're focusing on conservative as a noun, specifically referring to a person. The B2 level definition, as you might already know, is a person favoring traditional values and cautious about change, typically in relation to politics or lifestyle. In everyday language, we use conservative to describe someone who generally prefers things the way they are and might be hesitant to embrace new ideas or trends. Now, let's look at some synonyms. Think of words that convey a similar meaning, perhaps with slightly different nuances. A good synonym for conservative in this context is traditionalist. For example, he's a traditionalist when it comes to family values. Another synonym could be conventionalist. A conventionalist is someone who adheres to established norms and practices. We might say, she's a bit of a conventionalist in her fashion choices, always sticking to classic styles. How about right-winger? This is a more politically charged synonym, often used to describe someone with conservative political views. For instance, he's a right-winger who strongly supports lower taxes. Another possible synonym is reactionary. Be careful with this one, as it often implies someone who actively resists change and wants to return to a previous state. An example would be, some might see his views as reactionary, given his opposition to modern social reforms. Finally, we can use the word preservationist as a synonym, mainly when describing someone who is very keen on preserving old buildings, cultures, or ways of doing things. For example, she is a strong preservationist who fights to save historical landmarks. Now, let's explore the opposite side of the spectrum with some antonyms. What words describe someone who is open to change and embraces new ideas? The most obvious antonym of conservative is liberal. She's a liberal who advocates for progressive policies. Another antonym is progressive. A progressive is someone who actively seeks social and political reform. We might say he's a progressive who believes in universal health care. Then we have radical, which implies someone who wants fundamental and often rapid change. For instance, they were considered radical in their youth for their revolutionary ideas. Another suitable antonym is revolutionary. She's a revolutionary who is fighting for systemic change. You could also use the term modernist. He is a modernist in his art, embracing new technologies and techniques. Now, let's see how conservative pops up in everyday life. Imagine you're discussing politics with a friend. You might say, my parents are quite conservative when it comes to their political views. Or perhaps you're talking about fashion. She has a very conservative dress sense. She never wears anything too revealing. You might even be talking about financial matters. He's a very conservative investor. He prefers low-risk options. Consider this example. The company has a conservative approach to marketing, relying on tried and tested methods. And another example, the new law was met with resistance from conservative groups. One more, he comes from a conservative background and believes in traditional family values. Here are some sentence examples. My uncle is a staunch conservative and always votes for the same party. The senator's conservative stance on environmental issues has drawn criticism. Many conservative voters are concerned about the national debt. The museum director is a conservative who prefers to exhibit classic art. The town's conservative residents oppose the construction of the new apartment building. A slightly different usage in a phrase would be something like, he is a conservative in his spending habits. Or perhaps, she has a conservative attitude towards social change. Another one, he has conservative tastes in music. And one more, he holds conservative views on education. So, to recap, conservative as a noun describes a person who favors traditional values and is cautious about change. Synonyms include traditionalist, conventionalist, right-winger, reactionary, and preservationist. Antonyms include liberal, progressive, radical, revolutionary, and modernist. We use conservative in everyday conversations about politics, fashion, finances, and more. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Hello Word. I hope you found it helpful. Now, for our call to action. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your support helps others find the show and learn new words. We appreciate every single review and rating. It helps us grow. Also, I encourage all of you to create your own sentence using the word conservative and share it as a comment below the video. I'm really looking forward to reading them. Until next time, keep expanding your vocabulary and exploring the wonderful world of words.
Goodbye.